Oh, you got her, dude. She's down.
Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
Hey everyone, this is Drew Twerdick. We're back with another edition of Fall Obsessions Podcast. This week I got Michael Tepe joining me. He's on our pro staff, actually contributing member of Fall Obsession. He came to me with a topic that I thought would be a great conversation for us to have here on the podcast. Today we are going to talk about camera gear for people who are just getting into filming their hunts, getting into self-filming, and people who just kind of want to take their hunts to the next level by recording some of their hunts. And so Michael, I guess getting into it, why don't you kind of let everybody know what you came in with, what your question was, and what your goals are for this season?
Okay, yeah. So obviously as a new contributing member to Fall Obsession, I want to be able to contribute as much as I can possibly contribute this fall and going forward, mostly right now based off finances. Don't have a extremely large budget with the filming side of things. So, I had reached out to you and said, hey, what can we do? Try and keep things around maybe $500 or so, just to kind of get started this year, get my feet wet. Didn't want to dive in super hardcore right out of the gates, but also wanted to try and get good enough quality stuff that we can actually use. And so, I come to you and just say, hey, what can I do with this kind of price point?
Yeah. And, that's a question that we've gotten from viewers in the past and people on our pages is, as an entry level person or somebody who's just getting into filming their hunts, how can I get into it for cheap? So, great topic. So, personally, I have a background in photography, so I find this kind of thing interesting. I get into all of the gear and all the tech behind it. I kind of nerd out on it, I guess, if you will, for lack of a better term. But, I really kind of dove into your question and thought I'd really just touch base on a couple of different topics today, things that we could, recommend to people, areas that, it doesn't necessarily even have to be a full camera setup that you're looking at, but things that could help you film your hunt, I think is a great topic. So the first thing that I kind of wanted to touch on was that so many people right now have, a really great camera system in their pocket and they don't even think about it. And that's in their cell phone. A lot of these cell phones now have, really good cameras compared to what we were using a couple years ago. And, we're seeing some really high quality videos come out of some pretty good camera setups. And so I thought, one way to kind of get into this, if you're not looking at buying a camera, is what's a good way to utilize your phone that you already have in a way to take some good high quality video. So one thing that I actually picked up myself this year is it's the DJI, what is it? OM5, or the OM5. And so what it is, and I'll put links to all of this stuff down in the video description below. But it's a handheld gimbal. It's meant for stabilizing your phone. In this case, you can shoot either horizontal or vertical video with it. Control the angle with your thumb. It can set different tracking features, utilizing an app on your phone. So you highlight the screen on the phone and you're able to actually follow an individual. So holding a handheld device, you're able to actually follow somebody around using your phone. It's going to keep it nice and level, nice and square. And it's also going to help you get, I'd call it a lot better shots, because it's going to keep it focused on the person that you highlight, but it's also going to keep your shots steady and level. So as you're walking through the woods, it's not bouncing up and down. It's not staring at the dirt. It's focused on what you want it to be focused on.
Kind of like when you're doing a pre-roll, maybe, walking into a set, whether it's a backcountry hunt, whether it's a tree stand set, maybe you might do a little pre-roll before you climb into a tree, especially, if you're close to a bedding area, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe you can get a little pre-roll that way. Like you said, then you're just holding it, especially if you got somebody else with you filming, they can hold it and film you. And like you said, that's going to be way steadier than hold it by your hand.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I mean, there's pictures of us using it down in Indiana when we were just down there on that bow fishing trip. But
Yeah.
for us on the bow fishing trip, it was able to take the waves out of the boat. So when we're cruising along and there's rocking in the boat and there's movement in the boat, it really kept that camera nice and steady on the shot. So we were able to get nice, level, even shots and some
Well,
actually pretty good videos.
Yeah, if you can get good videos on a boat, man, imagine what you can do just staying on the ground, sitting in a blind, sitting in a tree stand, man, you ought to be able to get rock solid, video setting it up like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the other thing too is once you get somewhere, whether it's a tree stand, whether it's, a boat or an indoor shooting blind or whatever your setup is, that handheld thing can also become a tripod. So it's got a little foot on it that's got 3 feet that stick out in different directions, and you're actually able to set it up and basically use it as a tripod. So say you get to the stand and you've got a bench there that you can rest it on, you can sit and self-film using that just as well. So you can set yourself as the target, face it towards you, and then you have it automatically record you as you move around, which is another cool feature of that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Or in a box blind, something like that. Yeah. I'd say most of my tree stand setups are a little bit more difficult maybe to have a tripod, camera stand in. But like you and I were dabbling in a little bit earlier via text messages, I was really interested in the camera arm setup that you were telling me about, because I'm thinking, man, get the camera arm set up, get your actual phone set up right in there. That just seems like you said, I mean, we got such good quality phones nowadays. A lot of these cameras are such good quality, a lot of 4K cameras now, and just why not utilize it? You got it on you all the time, whether it's a good thing or not is to be debated for something else. But, I mean, why as well use it instead of going out and spending, I mean, you and I talked a little bit about it before, to get a decent, or maybe above average type quality camera to be able to film what you're looking 800,000, maybe 1,200. And that may not even get you all the bells and whistles with it. That's just kind of getting you going to start out.
Right.
And
Exactly.
not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody wants to go in first year and dump $1,000 on a camera, and then time you get all your accessories, you might have $1,500 into it and not even blink.
Oh, easily. Yeah. Easily $1,500 by the time you start looking at getting, then camera lenses and your stable arm and, all of the other things that we're going to talk about, that you can take what we're going to discuss today and step it up and extrapolate it, right? So if you do have a bigger budget, there's definitely options in what we're talking about, but the same gear is going to be helpful for everybody. So with this gimbal, there's definitely options if you get into the SLRs, right? And you're shooting a more professional body camera, or even in the mirrorless systems, there's definitely bigger gimbals that are going to work for you, by the same company, actually by DJI, who makes other versions for SLR cameras that I actually use as well. But so what we're talking about today is kind of, you can extrapolate it across all price ranges. So I guess the next thing, like you'd already talked about, tree arms. So last year we actually worked with a company called Fourth Arrow camera arms. There are other companies on the market that make similar products, but essentially what you really want to focus on is find yourself a nice sturdy arm, right? That's why we picked Fourth Arrow. That's why we like their products, is because at the end of the day, they're very sturdy products. If you look at them, they're heavy duty built. They can hold quite a bit of weight on those camera arms up there, and you're not going to see all the shaking that you would on a lighter weight system.
What kind of system is that to actually hook to the tree? Is that a ratchet trap system? Is that a pull tight strap? What are we looking at there from a noise kind of deal there?
Yeah, from what I remember, it's an actual tether arm, and I don't think it's a ratchet as much as it is like a pull tight and kind of locks into place or snaps into place to tighten up. That may change as you go up into the heavier duty arms, but just looking at, the lightest option that they have is that batten arm kit. That looks probably what you'd want to get if you were going to be filming with, your phone or a smaller camera or something like that. again, under $100 for that. The other option that you do have if you hunt out of like a climber or you have a ladder stand or something like that is they have something that'll actually lock onto your armrest. So rather than having to attach to the tree behind you, you can attach to the stand yourself or that you're sitting in. Gives you kind of that option to get out in front of your face, and kind of puts it right there where you can reach it a lot easier.
Okay, I was kind of curious about that. Here on the homestead, the wife does a lot of hunting out here with me. And for her to feel safe, she likes the buddy stand, the full enclosurement around, when you're sitting down, you're basically everything from your chest down, is hidden and covered. And so she loves those buddy stands. And then I go with her a lot. And I was kind of wondering, as we were discussing it, like how would the camera arm system work on some of our trees back behind me? Is it going to be long enough to potentially swing around now that you're bringing up this option of coming right off of the railing, basically, from what you're making it sound? That sounds very appealing for that style of hunting that we do here. If I was wanting to film my wife or something like that.
Yep. Yeah. And it's a very lightweight system by the looks of it as well. It's just a single arm, single pivot point. It's called the Rex arm rail kit. A little bit more than the other kit, like $150, but the bigger thing there is the way that it ties into your stand. So that's where the added cost there is. Again, the way we were talking about extrapolating this out. So if you're looking at getting a bigger camera system, bigger whatever it is, they do have heavier duty versions. Some of them have up to 3 different pivot arms. So like you were talking about, being able to put it on the tree behind you and have that camera arm kind of reach out and around you and be able to move it without hitting yourself. They do have options for that. Yeah. But as far as portability, now that's something that is it something that's very portable, or is it something that you're going to go in and put in a stand or a set before the season and kind of have it there sitting out in the woods? The other nice thing about those camera arms is that they use that universal thread. So the bottom of your camera, right, it'll screw into the bottom of your camera. So your camera is screwed in tight. It's not in a mounting kit. It's not in a vise. It's not in a clamp of some sort. It's screwed directly into there. Going back to that DJI, the gimbal system, if you unscrew the feet on the bottom of those and put it in, you can now mount your phone on that gimbal and have that on that same camera arm and be able to, as you're self-filming, have it track something. So as a deer comes in, you can set it and say, hey, this is the deer or the animal that I want to follow. And that camera arm or that phone is going to tilt and twist as the deer moves through the frame and follow that. So you get into those situations. We've all been there trying to self-film or take a phone video or whatever you're trying to do in the stand, and all of a sudden the deer moves and it's out of frame and you're scrambling to try and make whatever adjustments you have to do before you shoot.
I mean, you do that all the time, guys. You come to full draw, you think you're good, he walks through your opening, and next thing you know, you see guys, sometimes you'll see a guy actually use his elbow maybe to get in there and kind of move the camera arm. Or man, it's so hard to draw back on these deer. I don't care how old they are. And obviously the older they are, it's even harder yet. They're so smart. Man, imagine big mature buck, you got to lay down and move your camera again just to get them draw back. Oh my gosh, if you can get drawn twice on a mature buck, I mean, that's like hitting a lottery. So you kind of don't want to have to do that.
Yeah, I will tell you, man, I don't know if I really want to admit this, but that Rex rail system, if I would have had that last year, I think there's a chance I would have shot that big buck that I had. As he was walking out of the woods, I was sitting there fumbling with my phone and trying to get a video of him. And I actually, because I was so nervous and so shaky, actually stopped the video rather than recording it. So I got a nice long video of the inside of my pocket. But, if I would have had that, I think I would have gotten the shot, because I was fumbling with my phone and then I was fumbling with my rangefinder and ended up dropping my rangefinder because I was fumbling with my phone and trying to get it on video and arrange it all at the same time. And I think if I would have taken having to hold the phone out of the equation, I think that would have increased my success there.
When you think about it, we're not called Fall Obsession for anything. We are obsessed. Okay.
Right.
365 days a year preparing, dreaming. I mean, you name it, eat, sleep. I mean, just everything. Deer hunting, or just outdoors in general. And what we're talking about right now can go in a lot of different facets, but for me personally, it's mostly aimed towards whitetail deer hunting here in the Midwest. And man, when you get that one opportunity a year, maybe, you know, a lot of guys may get 1, 2 opportunities a year at a mature buck that you're after in your area. And, you know, sounds like you had that opportunity last year. And it's like, man, you need all the stars to align to even get the opportunity. Now I don't need to be worried about the equipment holding me back from being able to harvest this, you know, buck of a lifetime, this dream buck, or just a good buck that you only get a shot at once a year anyways. I mean, it's so difficult to spend so much time and effort into this. And then for it to happen like that, that's heartbreaking, man. I hate to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, it's like you said, we're obsessed. And so since that's happened, I've sat and thought, hey, what things happened that contributed to that? What can I make changes to? How can I make sure things like that don't happen in the future? So yeah, absolutely, we're obsessed.
I mean, like, it happened once, it sucks and everything, but imagine if it happened again this year, same scenario, another nice buck. You're gonna be like, man, I should have changed that before. I should have learned from last year. But
Yep.
it sounds like you did. You're gonna take the precautionary steps to make sure that that same situation doesn't happen again. I mean, something might happen, but you know, at least if it's not the same situation, because then you'll really be kicking yourself for having to have 2 years in a row, man.
Yes, I definitely would be. Yeah.
But I mean, it's like, you know, this is what I love about Fall Obsession, you know, kind of on a side note, like all us guys are obsessed with this, man. We eat, sleep, drink. I mean, we're just all day consumed in our thoughts, messaging back and forth, emailing back and forth. What can we do to enhance, you know, our opportunities, our products that we're putting out? You know, what can we do to just the overall experience, you know, make it better? And, you know, I feel like this is part of it, what you and I are talking about right here. What can we do to make, you know, the experience better? You know, I mean, I'd love to have some awesome video footage to show my kids as they're growing up of their mother harvesting wild game or of their father harvesting wild game. You know, right now I'm just telling stories, and, you know, little kid, it's kind of hard to them. And then if I can just play back this video, look, this was mom, look, she shot this, or, you know, dad was able to harvest that, you know. And I think that not only just being a part of Fall Obsession and trying to build the brand and get some different kind of quality out there, like just to add to the program here with what we can put out, it's part just, you know, the memories you get to share with your kids and your loved ones.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, we like to tell the stories when we get back, and what we're talking about today is going to give you that opportunity to not just tell the story, but be able to actually share it with your family in a way that is going to be captivating for them to want to sit and watch it, and not just, oh, here's this grainy cell phone video or whatever it is that you have to show for it. At the end of the day, we want to produce good content, but if you're at home trying to sell film, we want you to have the knowledge and the background to be able to create great content for yourself to share as well with your family or whoever you want to share it with.
Well, and how many times would it be nice to have that shot on video, especially an archery shot? A gunshot may be a little harder to, you know, stop the frames to see exactly where the hit was at. But man, with a bow, a lot of times, especially with these lighted nocks, I mean, you got a pretty good idea what, you know, when you replay that back, and how many times you shot a deer without a camera rolling and you just start second guessing yourself. As soon as that deer runs out of sight, you don't see it drop. I mean, you could have put a perfect shot. You just keep second guessing.
Yeah. I think the event that sold it for me was our group trip down to Texas. You know, Sam and I have talked about it before, but those deer, when he shot them, just didn't bleed. But the nice part was we were all trying to create content, so we were all filming. So every deer that got shot down there was on camera. And I can't tell you the number of times that, you know, somebody would go look for a deer, not see any blood, and be a little discouraged, but come back to camp and we'd all sit down, review that footage, and sit and watch it frame by frame and say, hey, that's a dead deer. Let's go find it as a group. Or, hey, that shot missed, which didn't happen, but being able to look back and have the confidence of knowing that deer should be dead based on where that shot hit. Yeah, it's something that, you know, going back to the antelope hunt out in Montana with Chester and Sam, you know, unfortunately that shot hit in no man's land on that antelope, and in real time it looks like a great shot, and even reviewing it on the camera it looks like a great shot until you go frame by frame by frame like you're talking about, and then it's like, okay, that hit in the white portion, so it's a little bit above that horizon line that you want to shoot for, and you know it could be a long track, so let's give it overnight, come back and look in the morning.
Yeah, that's just so vital to have that opportunity. I mean, it's not always going to work out picture perfect, you know, that's just hunting, that's life, but just to have the opportunity, that's what I'm really striving for now. And And the wife and I sat down and talked about it. And that's where I kind of came up with that about $500-600 price point for what we felt comfortable with this year getting into it. And, we'll see how things go. If everything goes good, we enjoy it, we may end up spending $1,500, $2,000 next year to get the whole nice, good setup going. But yeah, to get started, this is why I reached out to you, because I was like, Drew's the guy, got to get a hold of Drew. He's, like you said, not to take, you're the one that said kind of like a nerd when it comes to, the technology side of things. For me, on the other hand, I can barely work this smartphone. So
Yeah, I've definitely been pushing both behind the scenes and kind of openly with the staff that let's get better equipment, let's make better videos. And if you have questions about that, I'm definitely the point of contact on that to reach out to. I guess if we're going to keep talking about cameras here, since we're talking about gimbals and stuff, and we're kind of on that direction, that before we really move on to getting into some of the more professional equipment, there's another thing that DJI makes, and it's sort of a standalone both gimbal and camera all in one. And it's called the DJI Pocket 2, and it shoots in 4K video. So if it's something where like you're looking to only create video, if that's your next step, is you're not really concerned about taking photos, you're not concerned about anything really besides like, man, this year I'm going to go out and I'm going to shoot video of every hunt, and I'm going to self-film myself walking in and doing the recovery and all that stuff, that handheld image stabilization, it's perfect for what you need. You're looking at like $300 for that. So it's going to eat a big portion of this $500. If that was, the only direction that you were going to go, it's not really something that I'd recommend if you're just looking to sort of buy a lot of equipment. But if that was very specialized, like, hey, this is the one thing that I'm focused on this year, that's a pretty cool piece of equipment. But then again, like we've already talked about, the option that includes being able to use your phone and accomplish the same thing. So when we're talking about being limited to $500 and having to adjust where that spend is coming from, I wouldn't really justify it in that $500 budget, but it is an option to keep in mind for people looking at a little bit more. Moving on from there, I think probably the next best thing before stepping up to a camera, say you've got the stabilization, you've got your phone running the way you want, making good videos. I guess the next step that I would recommend for people is really moving into your audio. It's something that we've noticed here is your phone does a great job of recording video, but it doesn't pick up the audio, both in quiet situations, like when you're sitting in a deer stand and you're trying to whisper because there's a deer there, or when you set it up on the other side of the room and you're trying to film something from a little bit of a distance, it sounds really echoey and kind of like you're in a tin can. You can hear that distance in the audio. So one thing that I'd really recommend to people is picking up a wireless mic, like a wireless lavalier mic is what you're going to look for on Amazon. You've got options all the way from $40, which is like a Bluetooth connected option, to Rode makes a really nice option called the Go 2. And you're looking at about $200 for a starter packet there. So, anywhere from that $40, which I know is, I think Todd actually just picked up a set of those, just the Amazon wireless lavalier mics.
Yeah, I think he told me it was about like $60 maybe by the time you get taxes in there and stuff, with the model that he got anyways. And I know he got 2 mics that came with his, so.
Yeah. And I mean, if you go back and you watch the difference between the episode that he shot without those and the episode that he shot with those, there's a huge difference. And, for $60, that's a great improvement that you can have, being able to have that mic just clipped right here to your shirt while you're sitting in the deer stand and your camera's over on that camera arm sitting there. Just it adds that audio quality, so people are going to be able to pick up what you're saying in that video.
Well, especially like you said, if you're out deer hunting or something where you really do have to pay attention to your noise, you don't want to be talking like you and I are talking right now. You want to be able to whisper a little bit more and pick up that audio.
Yeah. And then I guess with that microphone too, one of the things you want to think about, since we're talking about it, we don't always hunt when there's no wind. So get yourself a good like really fuzzy mic cover to really cut down on that wind gust sound. You know, the kind of the bigger
Okay.
and the fuzzier, the longer the hairs on it, the better it's going to sound in those high wind
Okay.
situations. So when you're sitting there in the stand, you know, they come with the foam ones, but they also have that option of getting for a couple extra bucks. You can get they're kind of windproof or whatever they are covers.
That makes a lot of sense there.
Yeah. So it'll really cut down on the wind. It gets rid of that like wind in the microphone sound
Mhm.
that you hear, and it
'Cause,
really
once
helps.
the leaves fall off the trees, man, it's nothing to get a 15, 25 mile an hour wind day. And I could definitely imagine that could definitely block and kind of screw up some of your audio.
Yeah. And the other thing people don't think about either is they get up in the tree. So you throw that on and you're wearing a sweatshirt and, you know, walk out and it's, you know, you're warm walking to your stand, and then you get out in the stand and then you get cold, and then you put the jacket on over that mic, and now the mic's not going to pick it up. So if you are going with that wireless mic, make sure as you add layers, you kind of adjust and move it. You want to keep it kind of that outside layer just right by your chin. So
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that sounds like one of the investments that with my price point, that's a done deal. Got to get a mic.
yep. And the nice part is with them being Bluetooth is you can connect them right to your phone. So if you are going to be shooting with your phone, you know, like we've talked about, it's a cheap option to get you connected to your phone wirelessly with a microphone as well.
Yeah.
If you are going to be shooting, you know, for people we're talking about, you know, the bigger setups or the next step up, right? So if you're shooting with an SLR and you're shooting with a bigger lens, one thing that I like to throw on top, Rode makes it's just called the Rode Go mic. I think it mounts on top, right on top of the camera. Doesn't show up in any of the shots, but it picks up all the audio. So when you're standing there doing an interview with somebody and they're a couple feet away from you talking to you, it picks that audio up great. If you're out just doing, you know, day-to-day activities, it picks that audio up good. It does struggle sort of in loud environments to really isolate that sound. So if you're in a noisy environment trying to talk, it's not going to do the best. If you're, you know, in a deer stand and the camera's farther away from you, it is going to pick it up. It's what I used in Texas for that Texas staff hunt. So there's, you know, clips where Andy and I are talking to the camera that you can go back and hear that. And it picks up the audio really well in a blind. That might be a little different on a windy day.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. While you're talking about adding stuff onto your cameras and stuff, on my notes here, I was also talking about the lighting.
Yeah.
I know you and I briefly talked about that when it came to more, like you said, maybe a post hunt. It's dark out in your evening, do a little post hunt, maybe a recovery video. So what are your ideas for that?
Yeah. So, you know, a couple options here. They do make camera mounted lights. They do make lights that, you know, run in conjunction with your camera or powered off of your camera. Really, one of the things that I've found works better than anything else for really cheap is just go to, you know, whether it's Northern Tool or your local auto parts store and get just one of those like square array LED lights. They usually have them for like shop lights or working on something, usually battery powered. The one I have is probably 2 inches by 3 inches. So they're not huge, but it puts off a lot of light, and being able to hold it somewhere besides directly from the camera. So if you're able to hold it off to the side or up higher or even down lower, depending on the circumstance, right? You're able to get better lighting than just the light on your camera. If you're trying to do like night shots with your phone, the light on the camera is pretty tough on people's eyes, and being able to like lift it up and behind you or sort of above the camera so that they're able to look in the camera and not be blinded by the light is going to give you a better shot as well. It's also going to kind of broadcast light. So if you're out there doing that recovery video and you're trying to get a good video of your deer in the field during that recovery, you know, having more light to kind of sort of set the scene and cover the grasses and the deer itself and the body of the deer, rather than just here's the face of this deer and some antlers that are shining in a dark scene. So really just sort of light that whole scene up and let the camera pick up more light.
Okay. So is that something that you would use for the tracking also then while you're tracking? Is that something you would do? Just kind of maybe, you know, like in my situation where I'm using a phone, just kind of holding the phone, have it off to the side of it, you know, help light up the trail, you know, as you're tracking the blood trail or something.
Yeah, exactly. Anything that you can light up or anything that you can videotape and light up, it is going to be a better picture at night than trying to rely on shooting in low video.
Okay. Also, I know you and I talked a little bit about this. Some guys don't have as much space on their phones with the drive, like maybe a Google Drive. I have a Samsung phone. So Androids, iPhones, they have different types of storage. Every model comes with different storage. What, do you recommend for a guy maybe just to spend the monthly money? I looked into it, a couple bucks a month, I can get a decent amount of space through Google Drive added, or basically goes to the cloud and I can just access it. What do you think about stuff like that? That kind of pertains more to cell phone usage,
Yeah, I not only to cell phone usage, but once you upload your videos and having a place to store it. Yeah, like you mentioned, Google Drive is what we survive on as an organization. Being able to shoot video and then upload it from my phone without ever even having to, upload it to my computer first or anything like that. It's just open that app on your phone and it's right there ready to go. That is huge for us as far as being able to share that information. For me, additionally, it allows me to shoot way more video in a season because once I shoot video, I just upload it to the drive and then I can delete it off my phone. So if your phone's slowing down because it's full of video, it allows me to store all that stuff offline. So I don't even have to watch it. I can just shoot and record. It's one of the things I tell all of our staff, right? Always be recording. You never know when something interesting is going to happen. Oftentimes it happens and then you're like, man, I wish I was recording that. But yeah, if you keep recording, you're going to have a lot of files and a lot of data that you're going to have to store. And being able to drop that on the drive so you don't have to watch it right away or somebody else can watch it or you can store it for years to come is awesome. It's so cheap. I think they even give you up to a certain amount for free every year just for having a Google account.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I know my phone personally is like 15 gigabytes and it's already telling me that, hey, you're getting low on storage here. So that's why I was saying.
Yeah. I know that bow fishing trip that we just went on, I think I shot pretty close to, it was a couple 100 gigs of video. So, you get through a lot of video real quick, especially when you step up into some of those bigger cameras and you're shooting 4K or HD.
With that better quality, probably takes up more gigabytes. Yeah.
Yeah. And, one of the things that I have for situations where, I'm out in North Dakota or Montana or somewhere where I can't access that Google Drive is I actually have external hard drives that plug into my computer. They make solid state drives that are about $100 a terabyte now. I actually just picked up a 2 terabyte storage device for about $200. So for me, that'll last all season. I'll be able to shoot as much video as I want, upload all of that on there. And, I can just set that aside. And anytime I want to go back to it, say I want to go back years later and, kind of reminisce on a hunt, all that stuff is stored and can pull that up.
Well, you could, sounds like you could potentially, if a guy didn't want to buy a new one every year, correct me if I'm wrong, you might be able to just take everything off of that drive, now put it into a Google Drive, maybe erase that drive, boom, you're good for the next season. Now you don't have to spend $200, if you don't want to. I mean,
exactly. Yeah, it's not something you have to buy every year. I mean, I shoot way more video than I think the average person. So, if I had to guess, an average person, a terabyte of video and photos would be more than enough to keep you shooting and videoing for several years, if not more. Especially if you're looking at using, one of the smaller cameras we're about to talk about, or if you're using your phone, then storage like that should be no issue for you.
Okay. Yeah. What is your thought on a second angle? You see a lot of guys using second angle cameras. Maybe it's a Tacticam, maybe it's a GoPro. I mean, it could, some of the guys spend a little money, maybe even just a little bit lower quality camera.
Yeah. We've got a guy on staff who is a part of the Tacticam team, Heath, and man, he brought one of those out to that bow fishing event and that thing was sweet. he had an external mount, so it didn't have to be mounted to his bow or to his gun. It should just clamp on, just like we're talking about, to take that video. And man, that thing, he was able to get some cool angles. You know, the fact that he was able to put it kind of right on the edge of the boat, right in the edge of the water, was sweet. So yeah,
looked into them a little bit. They got some of them, like you said, you got a clip on it, like a adjustable, I don't know what you want to call it. It's like a piece of metal, basically, right?
Yeah, like a flexi snake or something like that is how I kind of describe it. Yeah.
Yeah, even though it's kind of wrapped in a plastic coating, but yeah, then you kind of move it, you know, like you said, kind of snake it around however you want it to take the video. I know, like you and I talked about before, you don't necessarily want that to be your, you know, your go-to filming equipment, just because it is such a wide, you know, pan, and it doesn't zoom in as much. I know some of the newer ones, like the 6.0 cam I looked into, that one has a zoom in now, like up to 8 power. So
yeah, I think there's definitely settings for them. I think the guys that use them for waterfowl hunting and mount them on the guns, I think you get some cool shots there. That's difficult. Yeah, that's a difficult sport to film, you know, fast moving birds. I think it'd be sweet to shoot some upland game with that sort of thing. I've used GoPros in the past. Things like waterfowl hunting is cool. You can go out and you can set them in the decoys. Use the remote control on your phone, where you're able to use the app on your phone to start them and stop them as there's birds working. I found that to be really cool. There's actually been situations where, you know, hunting with my buddies up in Fergus, the guys at Pit Properties, we were actually able to set that up outside, looking towards town where the birds come from, and then hang out down there where it was warm, and sort of hang out and hook that up to the TV. And we were able to sit and watch, and you could see when the birds would start flying, and everybody'd go get to their shooting stations and run to their spot and start hunting. And yeah, it was a cool hunt. Yeah, those guys have it rough. They've got full kitchens and pits for 10 people. Yeah, what is it, like 800 yards from the levee? Yeah, those guys, they smash a lot of birds up there. It's a fun hunt.
Well, and if that's what you're, you know, if that's what you mostly do is waterfowl hunt, yeah, be all in.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that something that you think adds a different element, you know, the second angle, you know, kind of the over the shoulder shot, you know, maybe you got your main, like for me, maybe I got the cell phone on a camera arm trying to get the actual kill shot. Maybe you got a Tacticam off to the side, you know, kind of getting, you draw back, or, you know, whatever else is going on, to kind of what's going on behind the camera type of deal.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a cool angle too, is to, you know, rather than just focus on the deer, get yourself drawing back and getting ready to shoot. You know, hopefully not shaking because it's a giant buck. But yeah.
Well, and that second angle is kind of how we know that guys are sometimes struggling self-filming, you know, because they have that second angle and it shows them having to put down, having to move it with their elbow, stuff like that. You know, if they didn't have that second angle, you probably wouldn't know that.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. And going back to what we talked about before, if I was running a second camera like that, that's something that I would definitely just leave that running. Get out in the tree stand, start it, let it run. If something interesting that day happens, use the video. If not, just wipe it and don't even worry about using it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
I guess one of the other things that you and I had talked about was wanting to potentially look at buying a camera, right? A standalone camera to go with the lavalier mic, to go with the camera arm, to go with the stabilization for your phone. A couple very nice entry-level cameras that I was looking at. So I kind of looked at, you know, what are the cameras that shoot 4K video that have a pretty good name behind them. You can obviously go out and find, you know, cheap versions of stuff if you really want to try and experiment with stuff. But I kind of wanted to give something that is tried and tested, that people can rely on. So I guess my first recommendation is for people looking to really just kind of break into shooting with HD video, having sort of that SLR type camera, that the camera body, it even, I think it may even have some interchangeable lenses available for it, but is the Sony the Sony CyberShot DSC H300.
Okay.
It is $198, so it gets you under the $200 level, which would then allow you to get both that stability arm and your lavalier mics and your camera arm for the tree, and that would keep you right at your $500 ballpark.
Yeah, that actually sounds pretty interesting. What kind of zoom are you looking at on something like that?
So it says it comes with an optical zoom of 35x, which is the equivalent of a 4.5 to a 157 lens. So that's actually right in the ballpark of what I'm using on my bigger camera. I use an 18 to 180, I think the lens is. So it's right in the same as far as being able to zoom that I'm getting on that bigger camera. It shoots up to 720 HD video, so it's not going to give you that full 4K, but it is going to give you high def video. So as far as going back in and being able to review your film, have a nice video to share with friends and family, even be able to host it if you want to make a YouTube video or share it on your social media, the quality is going to be good enough there that people are really going to be able to see a nice video. It's going to allow you to take still photographs very well too. So if that's something that you want to do, is get into that still photography, it's going to allow you that option as well. It also does have the LCD screen on the back. So, if you're out in the field and you make that shot and you're trying to review it on the actual camera itself, you don't have to bring that file back to a laptop, back to a viewer, whatever it is, to take a look at the video. It's something you can look at it right on the camera itself. Yeah, so I think that would be a great option if you pair it with the other stuff that we're talking about. I think if you're not as interested in getting into sort of that SLR body, and you can get into some of those point and shoot cameras that have digital zoom. So it's not going to give you the optical zoom, but you are going to be able to get some digital zoom. Again, the quality is not going to be as good since you're not shooting. It's a different type of camera, right? When you're dealing with optical zoom, it's all happening digitally. It's not the lens itself taking the zoom. So that's where you're going to see a big difference between, some of those point and shoot cameras that are still going to be able to make decent video and getting into something that's more like this. I think the next step up from there, so we're jumping from $200 to $350 here, is stepping over to the Panasonic. And that's the Lumix, and this is going to bring you up to 4K digital video. So it's the Lumix FZ80 if you're looking for it. Okay. This one has 60x zoom, so it's gonna zoom in even further than the other. I think that gets you up to about the equivalent of like a 200 millimeter lens. So a little bit more zoom out of the lens that comes with it. It gets you into that full 4K video at 30 frames a second. So you're not getting the 60K or 60 frames, but it is the 30 frames. It's going to pick up those shots in real nice high def. Again, you're looking at like $350 here. So, if you're looking at your budget and you only have that $500 to spend, here at this $350, you can get yourself a camera arm, you can get a cheap lavalier mic, and you can get this camera, and there's your $500.
Yeah, and that's really not bad, honestly. Like we had talked about, if it was the right setup and we had to spend a little bit more than $500, let's say $600 or something like that, we were okay with that. It's just more of, ballpark figure wise, let's just see where we can be at in that range. And can we shoot good enough quality video that we can actually use, like you said, on our YouTube channel, where most of the video is actually being taken in by our, consumers.
Yeah. And, talking about this now as an option. So say you go with this camera and you get that camera arm from, Fourth Arrow, and you have everything set up. Well, now you have your phone as an option, right? So now going back to what we've talked about before about the second camera angle or whatever it is, now just go buy yourself a cheap camera clamp, and you can mount it to your arm rail on your stand and get yourself a second camera angle, put it on a tree or on a strap that you have behind you. We're able to mount it there and get that over the shoulder angle like you were talking about before, and really be able to then have that second camera angle without spending any more money.
Yeah. Yeah, keep you in the same price point. Now, something that just come in my mind, it's a little bit off topic. I mean, it's still camera related, but the exact topic we're on. When you start getting in low light conditions, okay, obviously you see it all the time when you're watching these hunting videos. I mean, when do the deer mostly show up? That big guy usually shows up with 10, 20 minutes, maybe if you're lucky, a half hour before dark. And what is not only just having good quality lighting, good quality video to be able to show everyone, but what about the lighting? Like I'm thinking of my phone, for instance, whether it's second angle or the main angle, how do I keep that, you know, what do you do? Just turn your brightness down on your screen so that way you're not reflecting light back. You know, is that something that you're worried about when you have a standalone camera like you're talking about for 200, 350 bucks, you know? What do you do when it gets low light? Does that adjust on its own? Is that something you adjust?
You can set it to automatically adjust your screen. Usually if I'm filming and it's getting towards dusk, I have my brightness all the way down. I usually also run one of those privacy screens. It's like your screen protector, but it's a privacy filter on it. So you can't see the light. Let me see if I can show you. So let's see if it'll work on the phone. So as I twist, it blacks it out, right? So
Okay.
as I'm sitting in the stand, there's not light kind of going off to my sides and over my shoulder. It really kind of limits that splash of that light down.
Okay.
Yeah, but like you had mentioned, you know, your camera has, you know, a lot of the Androids and a lot of the new phones are actually coming out with low light mode. So if your phone has that, definitely take advantage of that. It may end up giving you, depending on the camera and the settings and how it actually achieves that, you may notice like a motion blur on your video where it's going to look like as a deer takes a step, you're going to see that leg is kind of like
Dragging almost.
Yep. And it may make motion look weird, right? But you'll still be able to capture some video. Yeah. As far as when we're talking about actual cameras and lenses, if you're spending money on, you know, that SLR setup, you're going to be able to look at lenses with smaller aperture value. So the smaller the aperture value, the bigger the lens is going to open up, and the more the lens is going to have light coming into it. That being said, so when you start shooting with those big aperture lenses and you're shooting at something, it's going to narrow your depth of field. So you're going to notice as you step into those bigger openings that unless you're really focused on that deer, the stuff that's like just behind it and just in front of it's going to be out of focus. Might make some of those instances where we were talking about like reviewing footage to check a hit, it may make some of that more difficult, right? Because that arrow is not going to be in focus until like the second it hits the deer.
Okay.
But that's once you're like stepping into bigger lenses, and I'm talking bigger lenses even than I use, and so it's not a huge issue for the cameras that we're talking about, but it is something to think about as you're stepping up. It was, you know, something that I noticed on my hunt down at the Axis hunt. The guide out there, Joseph, actually let me use his camera. He had a really sweet zoom lens that I'm thinking about getting, but it's a little bit out of my price point at this point. But it was a 1:500 zoom lens. Yeah, and so at full zoom, I mean, that thing really just shrank everything, right? And so at full zoom and with that wide open like that, it was really something where I was like, oh, cool. Only the deer is in focus, or like you could zoom in on just the head and get just the eye in focus and have like the antler and the nose be out of focus.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was really sweet.
Now, you got me really thinking here about the $350 price point for the second camera that you were talking about, the Panasonic.
Yeah.
Okay, so since I'm not a tech savvy guy, I will never admit to be. How does someone go about figuring out how to get the footage off of that now onto my computer? Or, you know, how do I get that onto the drive folder? How does stuff like that work for guys like me that don't know so much about the tech side of things?
Yeah. So I guess the easiest way, when you plug it into your computer, some computers actually have a slot for SD cards now. It's just like that little, about an inch wide slot that's maybe a quarter inch. So your SD cards will go right in there from your camera. So you pull them out of your camera, slide it right into there on your computer. If not, they make external ones that plug in with a USB cord. same thing. And then you pull them off there and put it, if you're getting that external drive is going to show up on your desktop just like a secondary hard drive, and you just, make folders in there like you do with the traditional drive and store it in there.
So it's similar to checking trail cameras, because I mean, you pull your SD card, put your SD card in, kind of pulls a folder up. It is somewhat similar to that. That's what you're saying.
Same exact process. Yep. Same exact process. Yeah.
And then you can just now you would just take that and just copy it or something off of that folder, and then just like kind of just download it, drop it into the drive.
Yeah.
folder.
So yeah, when you pull up Google Drive, at least on my computer in the window, you can actually just drag and drop right onto your window, and the compatibility will just load it right up there. Other computers, there may be like a load button or like a new folder button that you're hitting on that Google Drive window that's going to allow you to access it and put it up. But the transfer speed, if you're on wireless, can be sometimes a little slower if you're uploading a lot of video. I know all of the bow fishing videos that I uploaded the other night, I think it was like 170 videos or 180 files that I uploaded. It ran overnight. So I just set it as I was going to bed, hit upload, turned off the brightness on the screen so it was black, and then just let it run overnight.
And that was on wireless mode.
Yeah, that was running on wireless, but I know if I actually plugged into my modem, that it would be a lot faster. But yeah, wireless is a little slower for data transfer.
Can a guy just use a normal laptop or something like this? Do you need to have a fancy drive on your, you need to have a fancy computer, or just a normal laptop will do?
Normal laptop will work. Normal desktop will work if that's all you have. I know they even make card readers for your phone. So if you don't have a laptop and you want to, shoot video and send it to somebody, or shoot video and store it on the drive like we're talking about, they do make card readers that'll plug into both your iPhone and your Android, and that'll allow you to use the app on the phone to select those photos and just upload it right onto the drive as well.
And that might even be faster than using your laptop, honestly.
Yeah, for a lot of people that may be faster, because you're not having to upload them twice then, because you don't have to upload it to your computer and then upload it to the drive. You can just upload it straight from that card right onto the drive.
Well, yeah, because that's another thing. When you're uploading it to your computer, then now you're taking space away from your computer, right?
Right.
Once you get it in the drive, you could delete it, right? And then that way you just access it from the drive.
Yeah, that's something I guess we didn't talk about, but yeah, make sure you know how much storage you have on your computer, and don't shoot more than that, because if you were trying to say upload video to your hard drive before you put it on the Google Drive, you're gonna maximize your computer hard drive and really slow things down. That's kind of the reason that I like to use those external hard drives. I guess that's the reason that I push for them, is rather than using my desktop or my laptop computer, right? Everything, as soon as that card goes in, it never touches my computer. It goes from the card right to my external hard drive. That way it's not slowing down my computer.
Okay, so I could get a different external, like an SD card. You're saying a lot of these cameras just use a regular SD card now.
Yep.
And so I could just keep so you're saying I would potentially not even have to download it off the SD card onto my laptop. I could just pull the file off the SD card, put it straight to the drive.
Yeah, if you have that plug from your phone, like if you have that, whether it's a lightning cable adapter or USB-C adapter, whatever, but they make SD card readers that are for your phone.
Yeah, I've seen them for guys using them for trail cameras even. But you're saying that wouldn't be an option though. If you take the SD card, plug it into your actual laptop, you would need to download it to the laptop itself before you could move it to the drive.
Yes, before you can move it to the Google Drive, I think you have to put it onto your, I may be wrong, but I think that you have to pull it off your SD card, but I could be wrong there. But yeah, it's just, there's options for everything, right? You can change things however you want. I think one of the bigger things that kind of goes overlooked, we've talked about SD cards and trail cameras. Everybody's got SD cards laying around. But the ones that you're going to want to use for these cameras are actually a faster card. They come in different classes, right? And they make, I think it's I'm probably wrong on this, but it's class 4, I think, is the ones that you want to use for shooting HD video. They're faster, right? You want to shoot the fastest ones, they say right on them for shooting HD or 4K video.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed some of my cellular cameras now are requiring better quality SD cards than your non-cell cameras. So it's probably even better quality yet than those.
Exactly. Yeah. Same thought process. It just, with those big files, right, as you go to write video, because you're shooting higher def video, your file sizes are bigger. So you need a faster card that's able to write all of those files as you're recording.
Okay. Okay. What also would be some of your tips for a guy that's like myself, that's getting newer into the filming side of things? What's your tips for not necessarily the, you know, we've went over all the gear and the gadgets, right? So
yeah,
what's the tips when it comes to crunch time? You know, deer season's here, turkey season's here, whatever hunting season it is that you're after is here. It's time now to get this camera out, get your phone out. What's the kind of, you know, crash course, you know, let's try and avoid headache type of tips that you would have for something like that?
First and foremost, I would not wait until the day of season to start using your camera gear. I would get all of that ironed out. I'd find interesting things to videotape and shoot and practice all of the uploading and all the whole process, right? Go out and pretend like you're on a hunt, shoot the dog running around the yard, whatever it is, upload the video, get all that practice. That way, if something goes wrong, you've got time to ask people, hey, this is the problem I'm experiencing. I can't get my card to upload. I can't get my computer to connect to the drive. And there's people that'll help you with that through different steps of the process, but don't wait till the end for that to happen. Yeah,
So
I've been guilty of it myself, right? I was driving out to Montana 2 years ago for an elk hunt and decided I was going to buy my spotting scope on the way out to Montana, and ended up buying the display model, just the box. So no spotting scope. So I got out for my elk hunt, didn't have a spotting scope. So yeah, I'm speaking from experience here, not just not just throwing that around.
Well, we've all been there, you know, life hits and you get busy pretty quick nowadays. So
yeah. I think the other thing that I would tell people, I tell it to our staff, is always be recording. If you have the money to buy that camera, make sure you have enough money in your budget to buy 2 SD cards, you know, the biggest ones you can find, or the ones that work for your setup. That way, when you fill one up, you got another one in your pocket you can throw in. Same with batteries. Get a spare battery. Even more so, the thing that I found that I carry around all the time now are these like portable battery packs. Like USB charging battery packs. You can recharge them and just be able to like run a USB cord into something, and you know, whether it's your phone that dies, whatever it is, charge batteries, all that stuff is awesome to be able to do that remotely. You can pick those up for $20-30 off Amazon too, so I'd add that to our list.
Yeah, I bought one a few years back for the over the counter elk hunts out in Colorado. You know, you get off the grid a little bit. So
yeah. I used to play a lot of games on my phone in the tree stand while I was bow hunting, and my phone would die all the time, and I'd hear about that. So I got one so I could keep my phone charged and stay in contact with people who want to get a hold of me. So
yeah. Sometimes those games can get tempting when you're that or social media.
Yes.
So it makes you wonder how many deer you don't see if you're looking at your phone.
It's got to be so many. I look back on it and the number of times where I put my phone down and had a deer under the stand or walking by me, and it's like, oh, missed that one.
I love those memes on social media. Big old buck stand there and making fun of you, saying you're looking at your phone instead of him.
Oh yeah, I got a buddy who still gives me a hard time. I took him muzzle loader hunting. Told him how good the spot was. We went up to my farm up here in northern Minnesota. You know, sitting there, sun was setting. It's probably 5-10 minutes left of shooting time, and I'm on my phone texting people like, "Hey, be headed home soon. This is the time I'm coming home." Go to put my phone away, and it was full brightness, and so it took a second for my eyes to adjust. And as soon as they adjusted, I sit and there's 5 deer probably 20 yards away from me just staring at me because I was all lit up by my phone. So that was, when I started turning the brightness down and got that privacy filter.
Yeah, it's like for me anymore with the phone, it'll be an hour before dark and I've already manually turned the brightness down because it's like, it's inevitable. You're gonna, even if you just flip it up to see the time, I'm not a watch wearer. And so, for guys like me that don't like to wear a watch, it's okay, what time is it? How many more minutes do I have to shoot? Like how many times you pull that thing out, just click the screen real quick to see, okay, I got 5 minutes, I got 10 minutes, whatever it is, man, you light the whole woods up. I've had them deer look up at you like, what in the world?
Yeah, I actually saw a really cool product the other day that solves that issue. It's like a watch that doesn't have a face, doesn't have a light, doesn't anything. It connects to your phone somehow, or you set it somehow, and it knows sunrise and sunset tables. And it's got a red light and a green light. And that's the only thing on it. It goes around your wrist, kind of looks like a Fitbit. And it's
Oh, wow.
as soon as shooting light, that light switches to green. So all you got to do is look at your wrist and either green for go or red for it's not legal.
Oh, wow. So that's so somebody's had problems like what we were talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. And I thought that was a cool option, no watch, no nothing else. Doesn't really matter. It's either you can shoot or you can't, which
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, am I legal or am I not? And then when it comes to the filming side of things, and there might be times where you're legal and you just don't have good enough light, and it's a judgment call you got to make there. Do I really want to get this on film or not?
Yeah, exactly. There's certain bucks too where you see that, or certain experiences where you're just like, man, I know I'm not going to get a video of this, but I'm not going to pass this opportunity up.
Man, when Mr. Big comes stepping out, you're like, man, as bad as I want to get this on camera, I don't think I'm going to see him again.
Yeah.
So,
Situations like that, I think what I would do is just let that camera roll, right? Catch whatever you can of silhouettes, catch the audio of the experience, catch the emotion that's going to be behind it as soon as you make that shot.
Maybe the Luminok going through the air,
Yeah. And then, the rest of his story will tell itself.
Yeah. I guess there's one more thing I got for you here.
Yeah.
And it's not so much filming, it's after the kill, because I know you're big into photography, okay?
Yep.
I've been terrible about this. I look back at some of my, quote unquote trophy kill pictures, whatever you want to call it, the grip and grin, however you want to say. But the harvest photos and some animals I'm very proud of, actually. And I'm like, man, I did not take the time to make that what it could have been and what it should have been. So what's your tips there? What's your kind of process when you go about taking those photos?
Yeah. So me personally, I like to take a couple pictures before I move it, like just walking up to it, the way it died, the way it's laying there in the field. Like the pictures you guys saw, my axis deer was right where it died. From there, put it in a place that's going to capture sort of the essence of the spot you're at. So find a good background that kind of represents where you're at. It'll remind you of the hunt. I like to take the pictures before I gut or field dress the animal. It looks nicer. There's not blood all over it. The other thing too is, say you're after a big one, throw a bottle of Windex in your truck. It's something that people don't talk about a lot, but if you shoot one and you've got blood running down it, take that Windex, and that Windex will actually clean the blood off of the fur and out of the fur. It'll kind of turn it blue too, so you got to wipe it all out. But if you get it all out, it cleans off the blood, and you'll get a nicer picture that's not all bloody, and you'll be real proud of. The other thing, make sure you're looking at what way the sun direction is. Put the sun in your face or kind of on your side. Don't have it be behind your back. If it's behind your back, you're going to look like a silhouette, and you're going to lose all your definition, all your color.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess the only other thing, and we've talked about it, but I'll just beat it to death, is keep filming, right? Don't stop filming. You never know what the important part is, or what part you're going to wish you had filmed later.
Well, another thing about you're talking about a Windex. And as having children here in the TP household, we've got still one in diapers, unfortunately. So looking forward to the day when that's over. But the baby wipes, I've thought about using those before when it comes to cleaning that blood up. And then maybe you don't have that blue left behind from like a glass cleaner type of Windex type deal. So then you can just wipe it off and get the blood off for that pretty picture, you know.
Yeah, the other thing you can use is vinegar. So it's more about the acidity and the ammonia in it that is actually getting rid of the blood. So, you know, the acidity from the vinegar will help take that off too if you're worried about using the blue from the Windex. But I mean, it comes out, you just got to dry it more than you think you would. The first time I sprayed it on there and did it, I was like, man, that looks funny. And then just keep wiping and it'll come out of the white belly fur.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Yeah, I think that was the last thing I had written down for you that, you know, I really wanted to pick your brain on, you know, just for better quality.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, as we're sitting here talking, I'm looking at my screen and realize how dark it had gotten. So, you know, prime example of where that light would come in handy and what a difference that would make. So,
yeah, I just noticed that myself. Background behind me started out and it was daylight. Now it's dark. So.
Yep. Yeah, it's getting darker early and earlier. Fall's coming.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, you know, here in Southern Michigan, the weather we've had this August has been, I'm not going to say cool weather, but it's been mild weather for, man, August here in this area. It's nothing for it to be 90s every day and just humid as all get out. And just, then you walk outside and you feel like you just hit a wall at 6 a.m. and it's been 75 to low 80s almost the entire month. It's getting me ready.
Yep. You know, before we go, anything you're looking forward to this fall?
Oh man, just looking forward to my first fall being a part of Fall Obsession more than anything. It's just got me really juiced up, really jacked up for the season. Just, you know, just excited to get out there and represent what we're trying to do as best as I possibly can. Yeah, I've got a few bucks that I've got a few bucks that I wouldn't mind, you know, if I get an opportunity at here in Northern Indiana, where I'm actually from. It's Northern Indiana. We relocated to Southern Michigan. The reduction zone opens up September 15th. So this is kind of why I got a hold of you when I did. I'm like, we're running out of time. I'm already procrastinating, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to be doing what you're saying, you know, going out for a hunt and getting good footage and then, oh crap, I did something wrong. We can't even use it, or it's not even existent.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I've got that coming here shortly. So it's looking like here within less than a month, I'm going to be hanging in a tree, and I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, I think we all are. It's that time of year.
Yeah, you got much going on here in the next 6 weeks or so, or?
Yeah, so, you know, early goose starts in North Dakota real soon. Then we got goose opener here in Minnesota. Early goose season and early teal starts September 3rd. So we'll be hitting that hard. And then September 17th, I want to say it is bow opener here in Minnesota. This is the first year I haven't applied for a bunch of out-of-state tags. So I'm going to be really focusing on Minnesota. So I'm really excited to get back into some of the local metro spots that I've hunted in the past, as well as get out, do some waterfowl hunting with the dog. It's been a couple of years since I've really done a lot of that with him and miss it.
Yeah, I used to have a dog too, waterfowl hunt. Now it was more about the dog there towards the end than it was the actual waterfowl hunting for me.
Yep.
Just watching it work.
Definitely.
So.
All right. Awesome. Well, hey, Michael, it's been great sitting down talking to you about this. I think we answered a lot of questions that you had, but also questions that our viewers at home have had. Anybody at home, if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can hit me up at drew@fallobsession.com, or even just get a hold of us on our social media pages. We're happy to answer questions for anybody, especially about tech and gear and creating videos. Additionally, anybody who's listening to this podcast who decides to get into filming their own hunt this year, we would love to see them. Feel free to, again, get a hold of me, send in your hunts. We'd love to see both your kill shots and, you know, some of the background of how you guys hunt in your area. I guess the only other thing I got to say is that this week's episode was brought to you by Ridge Rock Hunt Club. Derek and Lacey do a great job of putting people on some of their bucket list hunts. If that's something that you are looking to do or get into, or have, you know, just want to find out more information from them, reach out to Derek. They are great people to work with. Again, Ridge Rock Hunt Club. That wraps us up for another episode here at Fall Obsession. It's been great. Michael, talk to you again soon.
Stay obsessed, man.
Yeah, you too.